When I was about 7 years old, my friend's dad showed up at the school book fair dressed up as Santa Claus. When I pointed this out to my friend, he got really upset and ran off crying to his mother, and I got in a little trouble because he believed in Santa Claus, like pretty much most 7-year-olds do. So much so, he didn't even recognize his own father in disguise. I never really believed in Santa Claus. For me, my parents really didn't make a big deal about him as a kid. And even if they did, it may not have taken long, even for my little mind, to figure it out simply because I always liked to question things. But for the most of us, at some point in our childhood, we come to an awakening and realize one day Santa never existed. We find out that even in good fun, all the adults surrounding us led us to believe something that was never true. So what if instead of billions of kids, it's billions of adults? And what if instead of Santa Claus, it was the Earth? And what if instead of good fun, it was for a darker reason? Quite some time ago, I began to wonder why there was a quickly growing number of people that had reached into the millions, beginning to say that the Earth was flat. I was already aware of the fact that we never went to the moon.
Right.
But this seemed utterly ridiculous. I mean, we had at least pictures of the Earth. So what on earth were these people even talking about? I decided one day out of sheer curiosity to just look into what this was all about. And it didn't take me long for my world to be turned upside down and discover who was behind the white curly beard. I recently posted on Facebook this meme, along with the question, "Riddle me this. Why did they clearly use a CGI image as their example of the real shape of the Earth?" I mean, on one level, this is a tongue-in-cheek jab at flat Earth believers, but yet they use a cartoon image of a round Earth. No one had the right answer. Actually, no one cared to really think about it and answer it. Instead, they just want to simply accuse me of being an idiot. Well, get ready to go cry to Mummy, because the answer to the riddle is this. All the images we have been shown by NASA depicting a spherical Earth, they're fake. But don't take my word for it. Let's take some time to look at this evidence. Okay, so for the rest of this podcast, I'm going to freestyle this because I want to make sure that I really express my thoughts on this. Because this is a life-changing subject. To realize the entire time you have lived, that you have been lied to about the planet that you live on, that's a big deal. That is a big deal. I kind of stumbled upon the Santa Claus analogy recently when I was trying to put this together because it's such a mind-blowing subject. I've been working on this for weeks. And a lot of this time was just figuring out where to even start. And so when a couple days ago, when I sat down to finally start putting this together, I came to mind the Santa Claus analogy, which actually worked out pretty good because both are the same. The Santa Claus thing is an innocent thing, I get that. But the comparison is the same where both of these things are taught to us when we are children. And we don't think to question these things. So when you become an adult, you have basically two options where you decide to open up your mind and decide to wonder about this stuff, or you stay closed-minded and you think everybody else is an idiot to even question it and you go about your business because you have other important things to do. My hope in this podcast is to present a crack, I guess you could say, because this does open a Pandora's box of questions, and I get that. I'm not going to answer all the questions that come with this. I'm going to present two of the main things that nailed it for me. Photographs and the math of the curve. To me, beyond that is just discovering more of the Earth. Because here's the thing. Either the Earth is round or it's not. And if the earth is round, well, we understand geometry, and that can be measured. If you have a basketball, you can scientifically and mathematically measure the curve of that ball. That's just a fact. So if we live on a ball, even if it's bigger than a basketball, we would be able to measure that curve. That's a fact. And you can also be able to photograph that curve with the technology that we have today. So for everybody who is still stuck in and willing to listen to this, just take the time and let this sink in to what I'm about to present to you, because it's going to change your world. Okay, so I'm going to first start off with the Felix Baumgartner jump. Now, I believe this guy did this jump. He did do this jump. But this guy goes up 128,100 feet up in the air. That's 24.26 miles in this capsule that was taken up in the helium balloon. I believe he did do the jump for sure. Now, the images that we see, like right here, is on a fisheye lens. They have a telescope arm attached to the capsule that is coming out, and they have cameras on it. And the fisheye or the telescope arms that are attached to it are only a few feet long, and they have these cameras attached to it to be able to capture this jump that, like I said, the guy did do the jump. But the reason why they used a fisheye lens was not for deception. I don't believe Red Bull was deceiving anybody. But the reason why they use a fisheye lens is because it's a wide-angle lens. And due to the fact that the arm that's attached to this thing is only so far out, they want to capture enough of the image. So like I said, it's not deception. They are just trying to get a good shot of this picture. And I'll also show you why this is. I'll show you the difference. So this is a shot of the guy inside the capsule before he gets out. And what do we see here? A flat horizon. Because on a plane, the horizon always reaches to your eye level, no matter how high you go. That's geometry. See how flat that horizon is? On the outside, we had this curve. Now this guy jumped over New Mexico, okay? Jumped over New Mexico, one state of the United States. See how much this is taken up, this curve? Follow that curve in your mind. And also keep that in mind, because at the end of this idea of following the curve is going to come back to haunt you. This is just a fisheye lens. That's all that is. That's not the real curve of the earth. So I'm going to show you a handful of examples to get your mind going and to prove the fact that these images are fake. They're composites, indoor Photoshop, and we're going to go from there. So this first image, I want you to pay attention to something. Saudi Arabia up here is a good example to look at. You see this image? This is a NASA released image. See the size of Saudi Arabia? You can even see at least the fake Antarctica down there. That's going to be a whole new subject. I'm going to send. That's a whole video in of itself. The truth about Antarctica. Now look at the size of Saudi Arabia. Boom! It's huge. How did it get so small? Tiny? Boom. What did they do? Bleach the sand? What's going on with the sand? Look how small Africa is too. And then, whew, Africa takes just this whole side of the globe. These artists got some swirlies going on. Here's another reason why this is Photoshop. What is this, this, and this? What are these little lines here? What the heck are they even on there for? That doesn't make any sense whatever. This is a NASA image. You think that's real? This is one that was released in the 70s, which to me, I call ugly painting, because this is just sloppy. This guy was just like, I am not even going to even try to even deal with the continents. I'm going to put all kinds of crazy stuff all over the continents. I'm not even going to try. He's got all kinds of swirlies going on. This dude just went nuts with the clouds. Clouds is an important thing. That's something you're gonna want to take note of, and something I'm gonna point out during this podcast. Clouds are a significant proof of how these images are fake. This is just an ugly painting. Okay, on this one, I want everybody to see. I want to pay attention to the detail. Look at South America. See this? Watch this one they release. Look how detailed all of a sudden it becomes. What's going on here? It gets all green all of a sudden, like everybody decided to do their yard one day. What's going on there? They decided to throw in a little fake little hurricane going on over there, spreading around. Here's another problem I have with these two images. See the size of North America? See how small it is? Same thing over here. See North America? I'm not sure if that's correct, because I've seen one where North America was, boom, at least a quarter of the earth. So I don't get it. You see how big that is? Wait a minute. It's tiny? No. Kaboom! America! You tell me that's the same image? No, it's fake. It is fake. All right, what do we got next? Okay, this here, this is another thing you can find online where people have dug into even deeper of these images that NASA has presented, and they have even found out how they have copied and pasted this photo art they do. Keep that in mind, this idea of photo art, because I'm about to prove to you a guy that was commissioned by NASA and what he said. But you see that? Same images, same images. This is one on these Earth releases from NASA, and people have caught the fact that they have just copied and pasted the same stinking thing. Let's go ahead and let's jump to that. This guy, Ron Simmons. Ron Simmons is the guy who is also known as Blue Marble. He created the image in 2012. And in an interview, he explains how he did it. Let's hear him for himself.
In 2002, Blue Marble 2.0, NASA's Rob Simon made this. Simon's job is...
It's primarily taking data and making pictures out of it.
That's what this is, a composite of data sets from several different instruments translated into a picture.
So we actually had to take clouds out.
They stashed the clouds for later, went onto the ocean. That came from an instrument that measures phytoplankton in the sea.
Where it was low, I colored it dark blue because they're low mostly in mid-oceans. And then where it's a little bit higher, it was like a little bit brighter green.
Then add the clouds back in.
There's a small problem with it because there's a very slight gap in between each orbit.
So some of those are painted on.
It is photoshopped, but it's has to be.
Then
there was another layer to sort of simulate the atmosphere.
And then there's this little bright spot.
It's called the specular highlight. So it's the reflection of sunlight off of water.
Those are the pieces, but you can't just slap them all together.
It just didn't look realistic. It looks kind of flat, or the clouds are sort of too see-through. So I just take Command Z a lot.
There's artistry to creating the world.
What I imagine it to be. Unfortunately, I'm not an astronaut. I've never been to space. But I've looked at these images over and over again, trying to sort of get the essence of it. It is photoshopped, but it's has to be. It is photoshopped, but it's has to be.
Okay. So we heard from a NASA, somebody commissioned by NASA, who has admitted that this stuff is photoshopped. It has to be. Still not convinced. Here's another good one that I have come across. Here we are right now this is being filmed off the NASA website. Okay, the NASA website. You can Google Dark Side of the Moon NASA shot. It will send you to this site that I have on the screen right now. We probably have seen this image. This is where NASA claimed that they have shot the dark side of the moon for the first time a few years ago. Let's see, does it say it in the article? I don't know the year. I know this was a few years ago. That's not what the year's not important. What I'm about to point out is actually what's most important. But you can still see this image. Like I said, this is being recorded right now on NASA. Here's what I want you to see. This image that I'm pointing out to you, it says these images were taken between 3 p.m. and 8:45 p.m. on July 16th, showing the moon moving over the Pacific Ocean near North America. Okay? That's about 4 to 5 hours worth of time that these images were taken. This is a time lapse. This is from NASA, claiming this is real photography from a satellite over a 5-hour period. I will give you 5 hours if you can show me any of these clouds on this earth changing. I'll give you 15 seconds right now on this podcast to watch it and see if you see any of these clouds changing over a 5-hour period. And in fact, they stay exactly the same. You know why? Because it's fake. Still not convinced? Let this sink in. You see the moon compared to this earth? You see the perspective, right? Now imagine you're on this supposed satellite taking this picture and you decide to head back home. Okay? You see the size of the earth compared to the moon. Again, this is NASA saying this is a real image. You're going to head back to this moon and land on it to take a little break. You see the perspective, right? You know what that means, don't you? That means that the earth should look like this. But what do we get? Images that look like this. Let me also quickly show you how people have taken the images from NASA from that moon, put them through Photoshop, and have proven that they have been pasted, the images have been pasted together because 90-degree angles don't exist in nature. Let me show you that real quick.
Hey everybody, ODD here. Got something short and oh so sweet for you today. We are gonna go to LROC. I'll put links in the description. So what is LROC? The Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter Camera, or LROC, is a system of 3 cameras mounted on the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, LRO, that capture high-resolution photos of the lunar surface. Down on the bottom here is a rendering of the LRO, just so you could get a look at it, or what they pretend it is. Now let's go to this post that's from the same website. It's called Looking Over the Limb, and NASA claims this photo is real, straight from the LROC. So okay, let's scroll to the bottom where you can download the original TIFF file. It's 302 megabytes, pretty hefty, so we know it's the original. Let's download it. Now let's open it in Photoshop, bring the levels up, and boom, clear as day, Photoshop job.
Okay, so the next argument is also the photos from the International Space Station, which does not exist. Think about this. The International Space Station looks like this. Now, this structure was supposedly put together in space, 254 miles above the Earth. It goes 17,000 miles an hour, okay? Do you even understand how fast that is? The Blue Angels go at like 700 miles per hour. That's like under Mach 1. Those guys have to wear special pants these compression pants that squeeze their legs to force blood up in their torso. When they hit a certain speed, they have to do this breathing technique real fast to force oxygen up into their brain so they don't pass out when they do their maneuvers and they do their stuff and stuff like that. This is 700 miles per hour. The International Space Station is supposed to be going 17,000 miles an hour. Now, we have footage of us building great things like the Twin Towers. Okay, we have footage of one of those great architectural feats of a couple towers that were supposed to actually be built to withstand airliners running into them. Again, that's also a one of those wink wink kind of things, because 2 jetliners did not take down those towers. But we have footage of them building those things. Now, outside of the fake moon landing, building a space station at 17,000 miles an hour, 250 miles above the Earth, is gotta be the greatest human feat of all time. Yet there's no footage of us doing that. They would be whipping through space. The only footage that we see is of them inside of their pool that they have done CGI to make it look like they're in space, because they're all floating and they're all like moving all slow, and they're turning some bolts and maybe like grabbing some kind of cord or something like that. No, 17,000 miles an hour, you'd be like this. Whoa! Carl, hand me one of those wrenches. Ah! Yeah, and you think he built that thing while they're flipping through the earth? You're out of your freaking mind. I'm about to show you here after these photos how the International Space Station is fake. That they're not floating in zero-G gravity. There's some scenes that they shoot where they're in the what's known as the Vomit Comet, the zero-G planes. But at most of the time that they're filming their little interviews, they are on Earth and they're on wires. And I know as soon as I say that, some of you guys are rolling your eyes. You're on wires, but I'm going to prove to you that they're on wires and they are not in space. But right now, let's just look at the photographs that they released that are supposed to be from the International Space Station. Let's look at this one. This is supposed to be Italy. Here's a shot of Italy from the International Space Station. Okay, so we see the curve. How big is Italy? Again, remember at the beginning I talked about follow the curve? We're about to get to that. Here's another image from the ISS. Here is the Nile, the top of the Nile. Okay? Again, complete the curve in your head, because I'm about to do it for you. Here's another one from the ISS. Over the Pacific Ocean, headed towards the United States. Okay? This is supposedly the Pacific Ocean. So this would be like California, Oregon, whatever. This is the western side of the United States. Complete the curve. Can't do it in your head? I did it myself in Photoshop. Look at this. I just completed the curve myself. I completed the circle. And this is the side of California. Think about it. It's going to be like, this is just the California side, and the whole thing would have to come down here. It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. It's not small enough compared to what they say the size of the Earth is. Those images are fake. Now let's go inside this International Space Station, and I'm going to show you how they fake this stuff. Okay, so I'm going to hit home with this subject real quick with just a handful of points, because this could go on and on about all the stuff that has been captured about the International Space Station, all the goofs and all the mess ups, to the point that I can't even believe that I've actually got to argue this point. But it is. People don't take the time to examine this stuff and just accuse people of not believing it being stupid. So we'll see how stupid I am when I show you these clear examples. The last one is one of my favorites, involving these people here, especially the guy here in the bottom left corner on the left. This one's going to be a classic. But the ISS is fake. They use CGI, green screen, hairspray, wires, and I'm not making this up. Let's prove it to you. First of all, let's talk about the hair. Listen to what the guy asked him. These astronauts are being interviewed by some gentleman, and listen to what he says.
Nebraska or something. The shot is so clear. Is this a hoax? Are you really in space still?
Yeah, because the air.
He says, "Are you guys really in space? Is this a hoax?" What'd you say? See the hair? That's not what hair does in zero gravity. Hair does this. It's hairspray. They all have hairspray in. That's not how hair acts. It's so stupid. There's a scene where one of them does, she's washing her hair, showing how they wash their hair on the ISS. But what they do in that one, because there's two ways they do this. One, they use a zero-G gravity plane, or they're on Earth and they're using the green screen. On that incident where the girl is washing her hair, it's because there's all these cuts, because they can only do it for like 30 to 40 seconds before they gotta raise the plane up again. And so if you ever watch that scene, you'll constantly see these cuts in that that whole scene. These people up there doing all this great science, and they do videos of like how we brush our teeth and how we wash our hair. No, hairspray. Okay, now they also use is visual augmented contact lenses. It's a real thing. Look it up. And what they do is they can see the overlay. These objects that are not in front of them, like this hat. This hat is not actually there. They're CGI images. They can see it through special contact lenses. Now, pay attention to this guy. Here's where one of the things go wrong. Pay attention to this guy right here. He's looking through the contact lenses. He has this kind of look, his gaze in his eyes. And watch his hands, because he'll be trying to reach for an object that he sees, but the overlay didn't work. And so what he does is he grabs at air and he'll put it on the shelf over here. So watch him. This is one of the mistakes that happened. And watch his eyes, watch his hands. You want to see some? Oh, let me grab that ball and put it right there. What you grabbing there, buddy? What you grabbing? You're grabbing nothing. See his eyes? He's just kind of looking through those contacts. Nope. Not doing it. Here's a quick example of the CGI, of the green screen going wrong. The green screen overlay. Like I said, I'm making this real quick. I could go on and on and on about this. There's so many examples. I'm hoping this is just enough to make people be like, what the heck? And you'll go and look this up for yourself, because there are tons of evidence out there. It's unreal. Here's a quick example of the green screen going wrong. Watch the astronauts. Whoa! What's going on there? Oh, NASA cuts. Better cut. Nope. Fake. And now the best for last. Oh, wait a second. I got one more before we show the proof that they're on wires and not floating. Watch this guy here. Watch this guy. Now here's some guy, I'll let him talk. He's one of these foreign astronauts. He's floating through space, and he's about to unhook some screw or something on this panel. I think he's going to open something up for the audience here. And apparently the screw that he's gets loose here is the heaviest thing in space, because it falls to the ground.
Deze panelen wordt de urine opgevangen en
Let's turn this here and then oops.
En
Oop. You can even hear it drop. mackerel. I cannot believe people still believe this. Okay, and one of the best ones, there's all kinds of examples of the harnesses that they're on these wires that get CGI'd out. And again, you'd be like, you're lying. That's a bunch of bull crap. This is one of the best examples. I love this one. So watch this guy here in the blue. Because what they do, when they ever finish these interviews and stuff, they always do this backflip. That's like their example of how we're in space and we're floating around. They do these backflips, and there's great examples of them all going wrong. This guy here is going to adjust the wire. The guy in the background, he's going to reach up and grab the wire. This guy's going to do the spin. And then this guy is going to clearly grab the wire. So watch his hand, because he'll reach and grab. It'll even pull him over, and this guy will react and look down. So let's just watch this.
Proves that you're in space.
I don't know, we're going to have to
check
do
this.
something for
Check
you.
the man with the stripy top. Look, he grabs the wire above him. Now checking the man
watch?
on the right. With his right arm,
Nope.
grabs the wire. Do you see it?
See what
Now
he did?
checking slow
Let me turn this
motion.
guy's sound off. I forgot. Watch this. Watch what he does. This is nice and slow motion. He's up here reaching. He's adjusting to whatever's moving on up here. She even reacts like an idiot because she's buzzed out by all the hairspray, because she'll react to it too and point up for some reason. Now watch him. He reaches down. He's got this video in too slow motion. Watch his hand. He grabs above his pants, and you'll see the pants are pulling from the wire. See, there's where the wire is. See how the pants are yanking outwards? Okay, so he'll reach up. He grabs above the pants line, because that's where the wire is, right here, watch. Grabs it. Clearly grabs it. Clearly. He moves, and then watch this guy look down and react. Oh, shoot. Clearly. Clear as day. It's unreal to me. Unreal to me. No. ISS is fake. The pictures are fake. So let's go next to the final thing I wanted to show, and that is, again, another scientific black and white proof, and that is the curvature math. Okay, so the math of the curve of the Earth is pretty self-explanatory. It's pretty black and white in my opinion. It was really the thing that probably nailed it for me the most and got me looking into this after I went and looked into the issues of the pictures and stuff being fake. Because the Earth is a physical object. If it is a physical sphere, like any other physical sphere, we can measure the curve. That is a mathematical possibility, without a doubt. And nobody is able to dispute that. Now, the people who've been doing flat Earth research didn't make up the numbers themselves. They took what is told of the circumference of the Earth, and what is already told, that is the curve math, which is 8 inches square per mile. So you have 8 inches first mile, 32 inches second mile, 64 third mile, so on. They took the math that came from people who have done, this answer was already out there, basically. Okay, this wasn't something that flat Earth believers made up themselves. They took the math that was already given or claimed to be true and just tested it. Okay, it's trigonometry, it's geometry, whatever it is. Look, I don't know how to do the math. I don't need to know how to do the math, because if anybody wanted to dispute it to be able to know how to do this stuff, you've got math guys who know how to do this stuff. I do know for a fact that what is claimed to be the circumference of the Earth, taking that radius, doing the Pythagorean theorem, it comes out with 8 inches per mile squared. You can Google it yourself and find websites that are non-flat Earth that will say the same thing. So basically, people were saying, okay, well, if that's the case, then that should be able to test it. And that's true. Like, if people are questioning this stuff, then they should say, well, and let's test it and see if it's true. case closed, right? I mean, it's pretty much straightforward. So here's a little chart, gives you a little quick example of what that kind of means. So like every 20 miles, that means there'd be 266 feet of curvature, and so on. That if you had, so basically, here's the point. If you are standing somewhere, and there's an object that is, this is your point A, this is your point B, that there would be a certain amount of the roundness of the Earth that would block your vision and would cut off the point B that's in front of you. Okay, if you're on a ball and there's an object that is a certain distance away, then a physical Earth would block that your line of sight and cut off what you could see below there, because this would be below the horizon line because it's on the other side of the curve, right? And that's what I was thinking. I mean, that's common sense. That's pretty black and white. Here's the problem. The math doesn't work. So when I was looking into this stuff over months and months and months, because despite what people think, I just didn't decide to come out and admit that I believe what is considered quite crazy. And I understand this does sound crazy because, for one, we've been told since we were children that the Earth was round, and two, we don't really look to question these things. But I had all kinds of questions when I first saw that the pictures were not true. And then I looked into the math of it. That was the second thing I happened to stumble upon when I was thinking, like, okay, well, wait a minute, you should be able to measure this stuff. And one of the things I would do is I would watch the counter-arguments, debunking videos, or watch debates. And that's the thing. You got two sides of the argument. And it's probably good to hear both sides of the argument, especially debates, because one side is going to make sense and one side's not going to make sense to you. And it's up for you to decide. But I think it's important to, instead of being a troll, you should probably look into this stuff for yourself for sure. I'm hoping this video piques people's interest. One of these videos I came across was put out from NASA. This lady here, whose name is Michelle Fowler, she's an astronomer, and she works for NASA. And this is one of her 3 proofs that debunk flat Earth theory. So I was checking this out right off the bat. I was just like, this woman is an idiot. As most of the stuff that I saw that were supposed to be counter-arguments to the flat Earth truth. I'm not going to deal with the last 2 quote-unquote proofs that she has, because it doesn't deal with what I'm necessarily talking about in this video. But they're as equally stupid. But I do want to point out the first thing that she says, because the first thing she says is one of these common arguments that are made, which is such a dumb argument because it is so easily debunked. So let's see what she says right off the bat.
Oscar, you asked the question, what are some of the easiest ways that you can prove that the Earth is round?
Measure it in
Apparently
pictures.
This is something that we're debating. I have no idea why.
Because you guys are lying to us.
That's a hard thing for me to even start talking about.
Because you don't have any answers.
There are so many proofs that the Earth is round.
No, you
it's
don't.
It's difficult to know where to start. And it's not okay to think that the Earth is flat. This is not a...
That's what I don't understand. What do you mean it's not okay to say the Earth is flat? Yes, it is. I mean, it's okay for anybody to say whatever they want. I mean, it's people want to say that the Earth is made out of cheese. People can say whatever they want, but for her to be so condescending and say it's not okay to say the Earth is flat, if it's the truth, yes. What's not okay is taking billions of our tax dollars to deceive the people because you want to not let us know that God has created this Earth. Yes, it is okay.
Argument. I have friends who have been on the International Space Station.
No, that's a lie.
Orbited the Earth once every 90 minutes.
No, they're not.
You know, I have had personal experience with people that have been up in space and can see with their own eyes.
Oh, they told you a story.
And of course, we've taken all of these amazing pictures from space.
They're fake.
So beautiful, all those pictures of the Earth. So I don't really know what's going on right now with this Earth is flat thing.
Because there's a great awakening and you're being busted.
This is one of the things you can see yourself with a pair of binoculars. is
Pair of binoculars,
if you
that's
actually
interesting.
go out to a lake, and there are boats on that lake.
Right.
The farther away a boat is, the more the bottom of the boat will disappear.
Does
You'll
it?
basically just see the mast of the boat.
Uh-huh.
And as a boat goes farther and farther away, the last thing you will see
Oh.
is the very top of the mast of that boat. And that's because the boat is actually going over the horizon that's curved.
Oh my Lord. This is the dumbest argument that is not true, and this idiot is lying right to your face. I'm going to use a quick example from ODD TV. He's got a great channel. I'm going to put the description in the link for his channel. You should also check out his video about 21 questions about flat Earth that address pretty quickly, pretty simply of very common questions that are asked right off the bat, because yeah, this brings a lot of questions because it's a whole paradigm shift. So let's cut to that, because this whole idea of the boats going over the curve, especially nowadays that we have access to the technology that the average person does, and now science, fake science, pseudoscience, and NASA can't lie to us about it anymore, because these images can be easily pulled in. So let me show you this clip right quick, explaining these ships going over the curve.
What about ships and boats disappearing over the horizon?
This is also due to human perspective. They don't go over the horizon, they go into the horizon, moving beyond the limit of our vision and past the vanishing point. But the ships and boats are easily brought back into view with a pair of binoculars, a telescope, and any camera with a good zoom lens. A great question to ask yourself is, why can't we see noticeable curvature from 120,000 feet up? But many people claim that the supposed curvature can be seen from the ground by watching boats. It doesn't make sense.
See, that makes a whole lot of sense. It's common sense, actually. If you stop putting up a wall of just blockage because for some reason people, it's weird that people get angry about this idea, and I've heard people still trying to debunk common sense. And one of the things they say is that it's refraction. Refraction is causing it to look like it is above the horizon when you're zooming in. And that is a utter stupid lie. Utter complete stupid lie that's being said, because that's not true at all. It's got nothing to do with refraction. I'm going to show you a couple images anyway here in a little bit that show you that it's impossible. That it's like the magic of gravity, that this magic of refraction is lifting up all these objects just perfectly at the horizon line. Because here's the thing, when you zoom in on a camera, a zoom goes straight, okay? A zoom cannot curve. That's physically and technically impossible. And they want you to believe that, oh, when you're zooming in the camera, you're zooming over the curve. That's what's going on. No, a zoom works straight, which means if the Earth was curved and someone was zooming in, let's say you're on this boat and you're going to zoom in and you're on a curve, what it's going to look like would be like this. You would see this. You would just bring in what you saw in front of you. If this lighthouse is below the curve, that's what you would see as you got in closer, because a zoom on a camera works in a straight line. It does not work over a curve. That's physically and technically impossible. And anything else, you're just denying what is just plain truth. People have been doing these tests now the last few years, and they've been taking cameras and have been zooming in. They've been finding spots that where we can test this curve math, and that's the answer. We're able to see too far, according to what the globe model says. Okay, we're able to see too far now with these zooms because the Earth is not a ball. Okay, here's an image here right now. You can look right quick. You can pause the video if you need to read some of this stuff. This is one of these world record photographs that was taken with a zoom, and we're seeing objects in the background that we shouldn't be able to see because all this stuff should be below the roundness of the curve. Here's another example of a spot in Alaska, and there's a lot of these examples where people are starting to test this thing and start testing the math. Here's another one, Manhattan, distance 48 miles. Okay, so that means that this city, all this stuff should be on the other side of the curve, and there, which would be, according to the calculator, which there is a calculator that you can look up online, and it's not a flat Earth calculator, so it's not like a biased website. You can just punch in Earth curvature calculator, and you punch in whatever numbers that you want to do, and it gives you the math. And that's what these people are using to test these things out. This was a popular one. This image here of Chicago, this actually made the local news, and there's a video of of one of the local newsmen claiming that this was a mirage. It's not a mirage because the image is not distorted, it's not inverted. If you want to look up superior mirages, you can see what a superior mirage actually looks like. This is not a mirage. In matters of fact, there's a video of a flat Earth researcher named Rob Skiba who does good stuff, and he did a unedited video where he's on the other side of the lake and keeps the camera rolling, where you can see the Chicago. He keeps the camera rolling, and he just drives the boat across the lake, keeping Chicago in the camera view the whole time, and it doesn't change, it doesn't flip or anything as if it would if it was a mirage image. The city stays in view the whole entire time, where this should be below the curvature according to the math. Understanding the flat Earth, the world that we live on, and the world that God actually created, it's as simple as 1, 2, 3. At 1, NASA has clearly lied to us and deceived us. 2, that the curve measurement does not work and there's no curve to observe. And 3, the truth is right there at your fingertips. I hope this has opened up people's mind to want to research this, because God is real, and God has us in a very special and unique place that they do not want you to know about. So thank you for watching. I appreciate anybody who's taken the time to watch this video, and I hope it stirred some curiosity that you guys will start looking into this, that the world that we live in is something extremely special that God created for us, that they do not want you to know about because they want to play God. Trust me on that. Actually, don't trust me on it. Research it yourself. Stop watching the Kardashians and start looking into the truth.
I wonder if one day that you say that you care, if you say you love me madly, I'd gladly be there like a puppet on a string. Love is just like a merry-go-round with all the fun of the fair. One day I'm feeling down on the ground, then I'm up in the air. Are you leading me on? Tomorrow will you be gone? I wonder if one day that you say that you care, if you say you love me madly, puppet on a string. I may win on the roundabout, then I'll lose on the swings. In or out, there is never a doubt just who's pulling the strings. I'm all tied up in you, but where's it leading me to? I wonder if one day that you say that you care. If you say you love me madly, I gladly be there like a puppet on a string. Say you love me madly, I gladly be there like a puppet on a string. Like a puppet on a string.